let's go to number 5. Simone Biles. Now, one characteristic of everybody that I have got in this top 10 is you can make an argument for every single person that they are the greatest of all time at their sport, right? Like that is where everybody in the top 10 got. You could make an argument about Simone Biles that the gap between her and number 2 is as big a gap as there is between number 1 and number 2 of anybody on this list. Right? Like it's absolutely in the cards that you can make that argument. We got some other people that will talk about that. I will tell you on the number 1 answer why I would not say that about that person. But to me, the reason that Biles is so impressive, and again, it's not like I'm a person with a very sophisticated understanding of gymnastics. I can only tell you but so much. Like I bristle a bit at the people who talk about Serena Williams in the way that they do, just because if I ask those same people who tell you that Serena Williams is the greatest female athlete ever and ask them why she's better than Steffi Graf, a whole lot of them start stumbling and asking, like, who is that again? You know what I mean? Like, that felt like the sort of thing where you just say it over and over again and people will go along with it. You watch Simone Biles compared to everybody else, and it's like, is this what it was like when Jim Brown was playing? Like where you look at somebody and they are just that much more physically talented than everybody else. But in the case of Biles, it's one thing to be so physically talented and be so explosive, but then this is a sport where you can't do that but not have the grace and body control. The game is really grace and body control. So like to do the things that she's capable of doing and then have the crazy body control and just be out there over and over doing things. It's not like she's just doing things that other people can't do as well as her. She out here doing stuff that they can't do. Hard stop.
Right. And so much of gymnastics is like set up by what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And that's how a lot of the scoring is done. That's how a lot of, a lot of your judged against your peers, and where she was setting the bar was so, I mean, a bit of a gymnastics pun, but
Yes.
so much higher than everyone else.
And she ain't even have to be perfect at it because nobody could come close to even like doing things that people couldn't even dream of trying to do. Right? There's no need for a gold medal in everything and every time. And you had the thing that happened in Tokyo with the twisties and all of this stuff or whatever. Yeah. It happens, right? But no. As Americans, we watch a lot of gymnastics because it be on the first week of the Olympics and America is good at it, right? That wasn't what was going on here, man. We were watching this because this was greatness. This was something unlike anything. I'm not sure the next time we'll see people who can do the kinds of things that she could do. I don't know if we'll ever see anybody relative to her peers in that sport who would be able to do the sorts of things that she did.
And also when you look at the longevity of her, right? Like,
Right.
We're almost like we're more about peaks than longevity in this list, but you almost have 2 peaks.
Yes.
For gymnastics where your careers are so condensed, they're so short, and you have so many people coming up behind you, to have the run in 2016 she did and the run in 2024. And honestly, they're talking about her potentially being in some of the teams in 2028, and it's not out of this world that's possible.
Yeah.
She's so much better than everyone else.
There's a different discussion as to whether it's time to go, get a job, right?
Of course.
Like after a certain point, it's like, wow, look at you with your 4 bachelor's degrees.
Right.
You're like, but it'd be dope on campus, right? Like there's, like there's an element of that. And don't forget the thing was she didn't go in 2012 because she was a little bit too young. Right. Like one thing about gymnastics and the idea of longevity that has changed is that once they put the minimum age in at 16, because it used to be all those children out there, and children, there's flexibility stuff that you could do when you are a child that you cannot do when you are like an adult. The whole game changed up and this sort of longevity became more possible at this point. And I guess there's also just more ways for her to make money for being Simone Biles off of this. But nah, she's it. She gets this number 5 proudly. And by the way, H-Town. You know what I'm saying? Like North Side suburban, no less. We don't get that many times to shine on people over there in my part of things. I see you, Simone. Simone comes in number 5, and now we go to number 4. Tom Brady. Ryan, I don't know about you. I was about to say his full name, but I find few things quite as pretentious than people that got multiple middle names.
Yeah, it's a lot, especially when it's like almost he has 4 first names.
Yes,
which is
that is
pretty
exactly
rare.
it. Was it Thomas Edward Patrick Brady or Thomas Patrick Edward Brady Jr.?
Yeah.
Come on, man. I just take
It's a lot.
Like, how big is your social security card? Is that shit like this? So that you can get everything.
It's like one of those big checks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. Ed McMahon gave you your social security card, right? Like, it was really good. But what makes Tom Brady such an interesting person to put on this list, and you guys know, I value peak over longevity. However, the longevity is so staggering with Brady. And the idea of winning 7 Super Bowls, 7 Super Bowls. I mean, what are we talking about here? Scott Kazmar makes a very good point, and he's not wrong, and he lays out a pretty thorough case for Tom Brady as the luckiest quarterback of all time. The Patriots had more horseshoe keister alliance than any other team that you could possibly think of. One thing that is fascinating about all those Super Bowls that they won is how they're all close. Like, I think the biggest point differential on those Super Bowls was the one against the Eagles, and even that I want to say was something like a 10-point game, and the Eagles had a chance to get there at the end of the game. Like, the margins were always so thin on the Patriots, but hey, man, by and large, you could pretty much guess that Tom Brady, at the very least, wasn't going to mess it up. And if there were plays that needed to be made, there was a good chance that they would be made. And hey, I think that we tend to overrate comebacks. And I think that we ignore the fact that in order for you to have to make a big comeback, you also had to go down a long way. But, and it was against the Falcons. They were never going to win the Super Bowl anyway. Nothing was going to happen. They could have been up by 100 points. They would have dropped a goddamn rock and jock basket out, and Tom Brady would have threw a bitch through that, and they'd have been scoring 25 points every touchdown, and they'd have won the game too. Like, they were playing the Falcons, but you had to have the steely resolve within yourself to say, we're not out of this yet. We got a chance to go ahead and do it. Patrick Mahomes, most talented quarterback I've ever seen. When the Eagles was whooping that ass, there was not a moment where I thought, all right, now I think the comeback's about to start.
I mean, Tom Brady started his career beating Kurt Warner in the Super Bowl and almost ended it by beating Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
Correct.
This is the kind of longevity we're talking. I remember kind of breaking it down. You could break it down almost having 3 separate Hall of Fame careers.
Right. Well, this is what I find interesting about that with Tom Brady. The best version of Tom Brady never won a Super Bowl.
Right.
Right? The Patriots won those 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, from 01 to 04. Then from 05 to 13, that's 9 years where they did not win a Super Bowl. Within those 9 years, they had an undefeated season, right? You have that 2011 year where I want to say Brady has something like 37 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, where your number one receiver is Julian Edelman. Like, when you look at what the receivers were pre-Moss and post-Moss, and this guy was doing the things that he was doing and putting up the numbers that he was doing. And how was he doing it? By playing exceptionally well and making really good decisions.
Yeah, football used to be so much built like outside in, right? You had these, big receivers on the outside. They're cutting in. That's kind of the West Coast offense. And then in that 2011 team with those 2 tight ends when they had Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski, and they were able to almost like reinvent the game on the fly just because of Tom Brady. He had his supercomputer back there.
Well, that was the thing, right? Rob Gronkowski is the greatest tight end who ever played. Like, hard stop. And Hernandez, look, can't act like it didn't happen, right? Or he never existed. Hernandez as your second tight end was kind of nuts, but we're still talking about in the NFL, you're running an offense based on having 2 tight ends. Right. You can do that with an excellent quarterback like the one that they had, and the one who out there like, hey, man, this is how I grind, so this is how we're all going to grind. But if you're to ask somebody what's so good about Tom Brady, it's that he's really good. Like when somebody says they see somebody in a draft and they're like, oh, he reminds me of Tom Brady. What does that mean? Right? Tom Brady is not here because of traits. He's here because of execution. And I just can't think of anybody at any sport who was that good at simply executing. Like, what's it like to go in the backyard and pretend to be Tom Brady? You stand real still and be unafraid of somebody hitting you, right? Like, what is there to mimic? What is there to emulate?
And then walked into another team, where he had kind of split split the credit for that sort of execution and that will and that discipline, and then walked in to Tampa Bay of all places, and then made everyone follow him and won the Super Bowl as soon as he got there.
Yes, and it's the overall body of work is so strong that it overcomes my own personal preferences, right? But look, so let's say we talk about peak. Let's put it there. The peak is an undefeated season with 50 touchdown passes.
Right.
Okay,
or winning 3 Super Bowls in 4 years.
Right.
Or having the greatest comeback in football history.
Right.
It goes,
It's over and over and over again. We can list it. We can go so many times over. And he earned it, Jack. Like, if you want to get in there and you want to teach your kids about hard work, he really will. I was about to say the training prayers and the vitamins, but he out there hanging out with Alex Guerrero. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what the hell they be over there doing with that TB12. They still doing that? You remember when TB12 was going to be the way that he got his money? I don't really hear about that TB12 no more.
Guerrero's with the Raiders.
Really? He strikes me as Raidery.
Yep, he's part of the Brady ownership.
I forgot. That's right. Tom Brady's Raiders too.
Yep.
Okay, well, they're going to be the most pliable, flexible team in the whole league, apparently. Alex Guerrero going to come in there and be like, wait till Pete Carroll finds out how Alex Guerrero feels about weightlifting.
I think I would love to see those two have a conversation.
Yes.
I'm sure they have different standards, if you will.
I would actually love to see that conversation between Tom Brady and Christian Wilkins. That's the conversation I want. Wow. We'll get back to that. Anyway, number 3. LeBron James. It's going to happen again, Ryan. It's going to happen
Yes.
again. Okay, guys. I want to be very honest with you here. It's almost a coin flip for me between number 3 and number 2. Okay. So what I'm not going to do is get here and make the case for why LeBron is not higher. I just want to talk about the greatness of LeBron James, right? And I think I've tried my best on this list to not be at a place where I have to explain to you why it is that somebody isn't or whatever it is to go with the negatives, because this is intended to be a celebration of who the people are. If you weren't really of age in 2003, like, it's one thing to have been a younger person, like in middle school or maybe even high school in 2003. It was another to have been old enough to have a little bit more historical frame of reference. And so I'm 23 when LeBron hits the league. There has never, I don't want to say there never been a player as hyped as LeBron, because that's not true. I was here for the Shaq hype of 1992, for example, right? What made it a little different with LeBron is that with Shaq, he was as big as he was, and we had watched him do it for 3 years in college. There was a bit more of a proof of concept to let us know what was going to happen when he got to the league. And it was immediate. It was instantaneous in a way that with LeBron being 18 years old when he got there, it was not going to be. However, we spoke of what was possible with LeBron in reverential terms that seemed unfair at the time. It seemed preposterous to make an argument that an 18-year-old who was not a center would be one of the upper echelon all-time greats in the NBA. And despite the hiccups, despite the ups and downs of the first 9 years of his career, he managed to exceed all of it. All of it. He did that, right? The thing that I don't think that people who believe LeBron is the greatest player of all time and do not believe that it was Michael Jordan have a tendency to just say that everybody who does this is like some sort of Jordan lover, and everything else, and you just refuse to give LeBron credit for anything. No, 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 no. I don't think you guys get this. LeBron did more than anybody could have ever possibly asked for him to do as an NBA player, right? Even those of us who don't have him as number one easily and willingly make this point. Being as good as the Cleveland Cavaliers were with him that first run, where you're winning 66 games and your second best player is Mo Williams. What are we talking about here? The Miami version of LeBron, which, hey, if you want to say that the Miami version of LeBron is the best basketball player you've ever seen, I don't really have room to argue with you about that. It was mind blowing to watch what it was that he was capable of. Winning 3 championships and being a finals MVP on 3 different teams is unreal. The 2016 NBA Finals, the top line stuff on LeBron's resume is so unreal and so incredible that those of us who were here and got to see it are absolutely fortunate, right? The all-time leading scorer in the history of the NBA, and most of us do not believe that scoring was the thing that he was best at. He's Wayne Gretzky in that regard. Like every comparison that we make across sports when it comes to LeBron is somebody that's way crazy high in their shit over there too. Like we won getting able to see this. And all of these things that we're talking about, while he is the combination of the supercomputer brain and maybe being as physically gifted as any basketball player has ever been, while also serving as an unreal, incredible ambassador for the sport. We won having this guy here. He was amazing to watch. We have done all of ourselves a great disservice by locking in so much on the arguments about the best 2 players of all time, because again, it requires you to find ways to diminish somebody as good as him. And look, there are knocks and criticisms that you can make of anybody else. But when that becomes the defining conversation, then much of the conversation becomes defined by talking about what somebody didn't do right or where somebody came up short. In spite of how many examples we have of where this guy came up big, where this dude stood tall, and where this guy exceeded all of these things with the weight of a league and a world on his shoulders. He was incredible. We are lucky to have him here. And he's number 3 on this list, which is an incredibly prestigious honor. Number 2. Eldrick Tiger Woods. Now, guys, I got to tell you, I wish I had been a radio host when his career first got started or whatever. I didn't really get it cracking until right before, he got run up on with that.
Things went sideways.
Yeah, with that. Yes, that is a great way to put it. They went sideways. I will never. Wow. As I talk about, we should be celebrating people, not talking about the bad stuff. Anyway, I remember that when that report first came out, they said he was seriously injured in a car accident in his driveway, and I was like, you can't go fast enough in your driveway to get seriously injured. Something's going on. And then we found out he got run up on she ran up on him with that iron. But no, not that iron.
Yeah.
The
iron.
How about this? An iron rather than that iron.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go. That is what happened to him. Man, listen. The reason I am putting Tiger Woods here is this is again a gap discussion. And the gap between Tiger Woods and everybody else in his sport was so vast and so great that I cannot ignore, right? I also have to note about Tiger Woods, and I think that this part gets to be very important. I can't think of anybody else on this list that, Ryan, they did so much to the course at Augusta to stop Tiger from being Tiger that a course that never had any left-handed champions just started having left-handers winning all over the place because they changed it up so much to try to stop Tiger Woods. Now, it's one thing to me if you decide that you're going to change the course because everybody is out here wrecking shop and it's just gotten too easy. The course had not
everyone's
gotten
winning at -20 or whatever.
Right. The course had not gotten too easy. The course was as hard as it had ever been. It was this one dude that showed up. Like that right there, it's so funny. That was the metaphor for we got to work twice as hard. A statement that Tiger Woods probably has no idea the origins of, by the way. I don't know if he ever got that speech. But you want to talk about the man trying to hold somebody down. The man tried to hold Tiger Woods down so bad at Augusta that it is unforgettable to me, 1997. The first time I ever went out of my way to watch a round of golf was the 1996 Masters, where Greg Norman blew that lead by the turn against Nick Faldo. This was the opposite of Greg Norman. This was just, we just watched a coronation. I remember that in 97. He shot a 40 on the front nine in the first round, which is terrible. He shot a 30 on the back nine, which is unreal, and it never stopped from there. From there, it did not stop for 12 years. There's Pebble Beach, where he beat them all by 15 strokes or whatever it was. There is the Tiger Slam when that came around. There is winning the 1998 U.S. Open on a broken leg?
It was 2008 U.S. Open, yeah.
We have completely forgotten that happened. He won the playoff round on Monday on a broken leg. How the fuck do you play golf with a broken leg? He did it on a broken leg. We can run through all these things that he pulled off in a sport that, generally speaking, this is what my brother and I talked about. My brother plays a lot more golf than me, but golf is a sport that you can't really appreciate watching on television if you haven't played golf. Like, there's no way for you to explain to somebody just how hard the things are that people are doing if you're not
how
watching.
Hard the things are that the worst player on tour is doing.
Correct. And even if you're watching and have played, unless you play it on courses of that caliber, you can't understand what it is to say Tiger Woods managed to stick that on a green from however many yards with a 7-iron. Right? Where everybody else is shooting with a wedge and it's hitting the green and then rolling all the way back down. Right? Like there's subtleties to playing golf that you just can't get unless you watch. And Tiger Woods made watching golf mesmerizing in large part because he was so amazing to the people who happened to watch it. Right? Now, of course, a great part of the Tiger Woods legacy is the sort of multiculturalism or the multiculturalism of the idea of Tiger Woods, though Tiger Woods did not lead to this huge influx of multiculturalism on the course. Of course it wouldn't. They don't want a multicultural course, dumbass. Right? Like them seeing Tiger Woods play golf and then being like, wow, we could get more black people out here. Hell no. What do you think they want next? Their wives to come with them? That's crazy. It's the opposite of why they're out there doing it. They see Tiger Woods and they're like, damn, we got to get more of them boys playing football than ever. Next thing you know, they're going to come over here and start playing this. Right? But on the course, for the observers and for everything that you ever have known about the social factors surrounding like elite level golf, because golf is a people's game. Everybody who tells you that golf is a rich people's game needs to go to a muni, right? Like Ryan, I imagine you played at a few munis yourself. It is a game of the people.
No, yeah, it's a game for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that is lost more than anything else. And when Tiger Woods was out there, he was a man of the people, even though he was clearly not a man of the people in many ways. But everybody could get on board with that. Kids were on board with that. Old folks were on board with that. White folks, gangsters, and the thugs, all on board with that, right? Everything. I can't think of, even with LeBron, even with like Michael Jordan, I guess is kind of an example where like, yo, we're all here for the show, right? Regardless if you're rooting for him or not, we're all here for the show. Tiger had us all here for the show. And I'll never forget, I think it was actually, of all people, Doug Gottlieb, who made this great point once, where I saw somebody say, well, with Tiger, he can only win, if his putting is not going, then he doesn't win. Yeah, because nobody's beating him if his putting is on. Yeah. Right? That was your only hope, is that the putter wasn't working that day. That was it. He's that guy.
My favorite thing about Tiger now is he is talking about a different mythical athlete is Mike Tyson.
Yes.
Is where he still gets us if he's out there, he still gets us in a row, and we still convince ourselves he can win.
Yo, that is
every time he shows up at Augusta, there will be a large contingent of people's like, I don't know. We'll see how these first 2 rounds go.
He has only won the Masters one time in the last 20 years. Before he pulled that last one, right, which was his Nicklaus in 86. He hadn't won since 2005.
Right.
Because they, again, had done so much to the course to make it, no one man should have all that power. That's what I would be saying about myself under those circumstances. Y'all got to change up y'all whole course. For me, no one man should have all that power. All right. Number 1, the top athlete of the last 25 years in 2025. Usain Bolt. That's right. Look, guys. The man has had the world record for the 100 meters since the year 2008. Okay? We're coming up on 20 years of him holding the world record in the 100-meter dash. I'm pulling this up for you right now so you can know what the progression has been on holding the world record in the 100-meter dash. All right. 2009. He set the record himself twice in 2008, and he has held it by himself since 2009. When he set the record in May of 2008, the record had stood for about 8 months. It has stood for a year before that. Okay? I'll just run through you. The record got broken in 2007, in 2006, 3 times in 2006, 2005, 2002, 99, 96, 94, 91, 88, 88, 80. I mean, a lot of that was drugs, but we can run through. The point that I'm making that you're seeing is these world records have typically held up, okay? The world record was broken in Mexico City in 1968 and then held up for 14 years. Now, it's worth noting that if you've ever seen the Bob Beamon long jump of Mexico City was putting up incredible times at those Olympics, all right? Bolt has now had that record for 15 years. 15 years. And I contend being the best runner of the 100 meters makes you the king of all things, because that's the thing that everybody does. That's the thing that everybody has done. Everybody has run a race. Even your fat ass has run a race. Everybody. I know. That's right. I'm talking about you. Everybody has run a race at some point. And he is not just the king of the race running. It was incredible to watch him run the race. And I will point out, and it is entirely possible that the 19.3 that he put up in the 200 might be more impressive than the 9.58 that he put up in the 100. He won the 100 and the 200 at 3 straight Olympics. Now, the reason where I said earlier that Simone Biles might have a bigger gap than anybody is Carl Lewis was also doing this while doing the long jump. And that matters, right? There's something to that, to have that, to be able to do that also in another event. But for this time period, I have never had anybody blow me away the first time I've ever seen them, like Usain Bolt, at the time he ran that 100-meter dash in Beijing in the finals in 2008. I've never seen anything like it, but you control for all the things, for socioeconomic stuff, for access, for everything else. He did this in the event that everybody's got an opportunity to do in one way or another. And to this day, nobody is coming close, right? I had gotten this wrong when we talked about it before on the show. Tyson Gay ran a 9.8 in the Olympics in London in 2012 and did not even get a medal. Did not even get a medal. Everybody was so happy to finish in second and third place because wasn't nobody beating that monster at the front. Nobody in the world. And he walked away as that dude at the top. you're the best at the most universally applicable thing in athletics that can be done, you get to be number one on our list of the top 25 athletes of the last 25 years.